We're often told that achievement brings confidence and it brings clarity. But what happens when success doesn't actually quiet the voice inside your head about whether you should carry on or not? And in fact, it makes it even louder. Today, I'm sharing a recent business decision that I've made that has forced me to confront that reality. And this one is very personal, and I know that it's going to help many of you that face difficult leadership challenges every single day. Welcome to the Second Voice podcast, where we uncover the conversations that leaders don't have out loud. And today, I want to take you into a decision that many leaders and founders face every single day, but rarely talk about. It's a decision that people make and it quietly goes into the distance, and people don't talk about it because they feel shame or embarrassment or even not sure how to broach it with people or how to talk about it. And it's the moment that pressure and expectations and inner dialogue collides, and you have to decide on what comes next. But before I delve into that, I want you to think to something like when you are reading a book that you don't enjoy. And have you ever carried on reading it and persisted on reading it because you think that if I just finish it, maybe I will get the point of the book, or maybe it will get better as I go on? And you keep reading it and you drag it out to the end. And when you close the book, you think, well, I hated that book. And it's so funny how you can do that and never think to yourself, well, I'm about 2 chapters into this book. It's not grabbing me. I'm just going to not read it anymore. And some people do that quite easily, but others think that I've just got to get to the end. And it's strange how, and when we assume that reaching the end of something will make everything clearer, and people will do this in business and leadership too. If I just finish the project, then I will feel complete. If I just reach this next milestone in my business, then I'll know that I will have made it. If I just achieve this goal, I will feel confident. But it really actually happens in such a linear way and in such a neat way in business when you are founding businesses. And I have had 2 businesses of my own that have been so completely different, and the outcome has been so completely different for both of them that I never expected. And none of it has been linear. And funnily enough, the things that I thought would make me feel confident about that business didn't make me feel confident. And unexpected situations have made me feel confident in my other business. And I'm going to delve a little bit more into that, because sometimes when something is working or is recognized or is successful, we question whether the intuition inside of us telling us that this isn't the right move for us is actually the right voice that we are listening to. So many of you who have known me for a long time know that I've had Vermello, my consulting practice around resilient leadership, change management, and more recently, more focused in steady leadership for the last 10 years. And 3 years ago, I started a second business with my sister, Whisper and Thread. We've talked about it on this podcast a number of times about self-talk. It's all been about self-talk. And it's funny because Whisper and Thread has won multiple awards in the last couple of years, even though it was a brand new business. We had really great early traction at the beginning. People loved the product. But then slowly over time, barriers started popping up for us. Things like US tariffs came into place and cut out about 60% of our market to enable us to sell into that market. Then our courier provider, our delivery service, went into administration, which effectively meant that we had to use larger courier services that doubled pretty much our postage and delivery costs. And even though those are things that, in terms of strategy, that you can work towards, they were roadblocks, and they were pointing us, they were telling us this is not the direction that you want to go in. And it's funny because we could have told ourselves, but we've had so much success. We've won awards. People love the product. People have been sharing our product. People have been buying. We had such early success. We could have told ourselves and kept pushing, but there was something inside of us that was saying, no, this is not the direction that we want to continue taking, especially when it meant that for us to get our product out there, we had to start going to lifestyle markets because a third thing came along. Social media platforms started to block some of our content because it contained the word self-talk in it. And self-talk is often a word used in social media content for people who engage in self-harm. So we were effectively, our marketing was even being blocked. So we could become a lifestyle brand and slowly, over a small amount of time, promote our product at markets and face-to-face pop-up stores and so forth. And we were actually on track to doing that. We had already attended markets and sold out our stock at markets, which was incredible and so rewarding. And again, making us doubt our intuition. But when we really looked into it, we knew that that wasn't the direction that we had ever intended for Whisper and Thread. Or my sister and I, who founded with me, she's been on a podcast episode with me, and I urge you to look into that one. But we have other businesses of our own. We do consulting work too. And my sister also has a construction and renovation company in Portugal, which takes up a lot of her time, and it's amazing. And for us to engage in building Whisper and Thread in that slow, non-e-commerce way and as a lifestyle brand was just not the direction we wanted to go in, even though we knew that strategically it might have been the way for us to enable us to grow slowly over the next few years until we could see how tariffs panned out and what kind of courier services filled the gap for us and so forth. Just wasn't the way for us. So we made the decision to wind up that business. And it was a really difficult decision because we've poured our heart and soul into the brand. It's a beautiful brand. It's won awards. We've got lots of support for it. And people were surprised and saying, wow, like we didn't expect you to wind that up so soon. And I know that a few people would be thinking, well, you just kind of, gave up on that. But there's been so much thinking and intuition and strategic thinking behind that decision too. And that's the tension that leaders and founders sit with. This inner knowing, this inner guidance that we receive, and also assuming that success makes the path forward clearer. And it really doesn't. Success doesn't always make the path forward clearer. It muddies the water because you think, oh, well, now I'm in it. I have to keep going because people think this is a success and I have to keep doing it. Otherwise, what will people think? And there's that whole identity element wrapped up inside that too. So why does that inner critic get louder instead of quieter the more we succeed? Well, I think it's because of the reasons that I've sort of touched on. It's because it becomes our identity, and we cannot let go of that identity of we look successful. This looks like an amazing brand. I look like an amazing leader and a really smart founder and so forth. And now if I wind this up, if I close this and make this decision to wind this up, people are going to think that I'm not that person. That's not my identity. And so our inner critic starts to overthink things and analyze things, and we just don't make that clean decision. So the decisions that leaders and founders face every day, it's really visible. Really, you see such a small part of that in what we put out there. And there's so much more that goes into the thinking behind growing and building businesses that you just don't know. When you start the business, you don't know if it's going to be a success, but you give it a good darn crack. And it's funny because I've got a consulting business, Vermello, that's scaling and growing, and it's been operating for 10 years and it's going in a wonderful direction at the moment. And I'm so looking forward to building on that success. But even now, 10 years in, I can't tell you if in 10 years' time, that business is going to be as successful as I can see it being. You just don't know. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you can't allow the fear to come and get you. You can't allow the fear to come and get you. So if you want to know, how do leaders and founders distinguish between the voice that says, keep pushing forward on this, and the quieter voice that says, okay, this chapter is complete? How do you know what the right voice is? And essentially, for me, I've learned that you're dealing with 3 different signals in your head. The first one is intuition. The second one is you might have an emotional pattern or conditioning that you follow every time. And the third is fear. And if you want to know the difference between, okay, which voice am I hearing now? Is it fear, pattern, conditioning, or intuition or fear? Then this is what it feels like, all right? So intuition, it's often quiet, very direct, and is not emotionally charged. It doesn't have an emotional charge to it. It's often very loving. It's not, it doesn't criticize you. It's just a fact. And it comes very quickly and then it leaves. It doesn't analyze itself. It comes and then it goes. All right. And an example of that might be, this is not the right way forward. And that was my intuition with Whisper and Thread. This is not the right way forward. It kept just coming in and saying that. It didn't have an emotion to it like, oh my God, this is not the right forward. What am I going to do? It was just, this is not the right way forward. Another example, it could be wait. I've been having that one lately. Wait. And that's with what I'm intending to do with Vermello. I'm keen to get lots of stuff going, but I'm waiting, I'm holding, because there are some things that need to happen first, even though I've got excitement for things that are coming. Intuition doesn't argue with you, and it doesn't try to convince you, and it doesn't try to criticize you. You feel it in your body in a very neutral or steady way. And sometimes it can be very exciting, but then you might be attaching some emotion too. And you can listen more about this over the season with June Mack on the last episode. And she talks about intuition, and she's amazing. And I urge you to follow her. But then there's an emotional pattern that you might have. And that voice feels very familiar. It's a voice that you've had millions of times before in different projects, different situations, and is very personal. And it's often tied to a story that you tell yourself. And that sounds like this. This always happens to me. I'm not enough here. I'm not smart enough to do this. I'm always going to be a failure. I fail anyway. And you might have that same pattern every time that you go through a project or start a business or try and do something new, and then you give up, and that's the pattern that you tell yourself. You're telling yourself to give up because of those patterns. I definitely didn't feel that with Whisper and Thread, because I've had lots of successes in business over my career and some failures, but I don't have this fear in me or this pattern in me that says, oh, I'm just never going to be a successful business owner. And then the third one is fear. And that feels like, that feels very urgent, and it feels very loud, and it's very future focused. And it sounds very much like, what if this is the wrong decision? What if I am just not working hard enough? There's usually a what if attached to it. What will people think? Or there's urgency. If I don't figure this out now, it's not going to ever work out for me. I need to hurry up and make a decision on this. Those are all fear-based, and they're usually tied to something you're afraid of what you'll look like. You're afraid of making the wrong decision. You know what fear feels like. And so when you're making a big decision, like whether I need to wrap up this business or start a new business, you need to ask yourself, are you listening to your intuition, your second voice? Are you listening to a pattern, the voice that you inherited, a story that you've inherited over many years? Or are you listening to fear? And it's so funny, over this whole season, today is the season for my life for season 1. Over this whole season, I've heard founders and leaders talk about their intuition, their fears, their patterns that they've grown up with, that they've brought with them from other businesses. And it's always those 3 themes. And I've loved hearing those insights, because truly, I did not start this podcast at season 1 thinking I was going to wrap up one of my businesses. I felt like it was succeeding. And now come to the end of season 1, listening to all of those insights from all of those leaders. And I've made the decision to wrap up Whisper and Thread with my sister. And it's it's so rewarding to know that these are the challenges that leaders face every day, and we are absolutely normal, and we can inspire others to grow, to lead, to start new businesses, to also understand when the time is up for the business that they're in. So, ending something that we've built is often the hardest leadership decision we will ever make because we're committed to seeing things through. We never start something thinking, I'm not going to see this to the end. And the narrative on social media says things like, if you didn't succeed with your business because you didn't work hard enough, you didn't have enough grit, you weren't strategic enough, you didn't wake up early enough, you didn't work hard enough, you didn't try hard enough, you weren't smart enough, you need to be more like Elon Musk, or that's the narrative on social media. But so many solutions and frameworks out there that you see all over social media. There are so many of them, but none of them tell you how to listen to your intuition. None of them tell you how to listen to yourself during times of steadiness, how to not allow the pressure to get to you, how to not allow your stories and your identity to get in the way, and for you to make a steady, intuitive decision that you know in your heart is right, even though the risk is high. So, that's the journey that I have been on over this whole season. It's been wonderful starting this podcast. And sometimes a leader or a founder makes a decision that comes to a shock to everyone else observing from the outside. And we celebrate perseverance and grit in leadership, but we don't talk about steady leadership required to recognize when momentum alone is not good enough reason to continue something. And I'm here for it. I'm here to talk through that. It's the truth of running business, and people don't talk about it enough, because the real work in those moments isn't the decision itself, but the conversation that you have with yourself before anyone else sees that decision. That is the important work, the steady, calm decision that you can make. So, as I said, this is the end of season 1 of this podcast. It's been wonderful. And season 2 of this podcast, I have so many amazing guests lined up. I can't believe I keep getting these incredible guests coming to join me. But we are going to explore a little bit more about the hidden inner dialogues that shape steady leadership. And I can't wait to delve into that more. My work is all about steady leadership and self-talk, and I'm committed to helping leaders find their steadiness and their resilience through times of pressure and change. And while season 1 has been an eye-opener, season 2 is going to delve into the way our inner voice shapes our steadiness. And I can't wait to share that with you. So, if leadership is defined by the decisions that we make under pressure, then the real story is really what the world sees. It's that second voice that we listen to along the way. And I know that this whole season has shown you that with all of our guests. And thank you for joining me through season 1. If you've been here for every single episode, I am so, so grateful for you. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and share this content, because it definitely helps with our reach. And I will see you in season 2. And the final note is, if you want to hear from a guest, or you think you would be a great guest on this podcast, head over to www.thesecondvoicepodcast.com and you can apply there, or ask the person that you want to hear on this podcast to apply there. I'd love to hear from more guests. I love talking to leaders and founders out there and listening to their journeys and what their inner voice and their steadiness, how it brought them to where they are today. Enjoy the break, and I will see you in April for season 2. Take care.